if you watched the live stream the other day, the one I made members partway through it because we were getting loads of spam comments, I said I'd do a public one next time. We talk about like movies and lasers and cool stuff, you know, rather than it turning into what's your favorite gas mask 24/7. Because obviously that gets very irritating. Now, for these quite powerful lasers, because I've been watching a load of Styro Pyro videos, whatever he's called, who, you know, knows a lot about lasers, I've ordered much better goggles than these now. These ones aren't too bad. Like, they're not as bad as some of the ones he shows in his videos. But the ones I've got come in are like literally £80 goggles. You know, they're like 8 times the price of these. Well, probably more like 6 times the price of these. But, you know, they're ones that are like got all the proper certification for them. Because I've got an 8-watt laser on order now, I don't want to burn my eyesight out. So, you know, I've got better ones coming than this. These do massively reduce the amount of light coming through, but yeah, they're not really good enough after watching a load of videos on laser safety. So, yeah, you can talk about movies. All right, finish Cold War. Is that Visa or is that somebody else with a similar name? We weren't going to talk about masks. What mask can you get at a decent price in your country? And then maybe buy one of those. I don't want to have a whole stream talking about masks today. I want to have a stream today where we talk mostly about movies or lasers or cool gadgets. But where they get cut up in the corridor, Mike. Saying about movies with lasers, what's really funny, I think I might have sent you this video earlier, is that Styro Pyro bloke's made lasers stronger than 40 watt now. So, you know, he's got lasers that are literally Skynet tier lasers, which is quite funny when you think about it, isn't it? That, like, as much as laser weapons are futuristic, there are random nerdy YouTubers that have made lasers more powerful than the ones technically in the Terminator. All right, Nick. All right, Henry. What I could try, might be a stupid idea. Let me put these back on. Let's see how much light the FM12 outsert stops. I know it's not designed to stop lasers, this one. The Red S10 ones, I think, might be to do with that. But so, obviously, one side has the outsert on, one doesn't. So, the side without the outsert on, as you can see, doesn't do anything. Side with the outsert on, does a bit, but, you know, still would burn your eyes out if you had that on. The Red S10 outserts are for a type of laser, I think, so I might play about with those at some point and figure out what they stop. Yeah, Rich, it's that exact thing, isn't it? That with laser goggles, the stronger the lasers are, the better the goggles you need in terms of protection, and it's also a thing of getting the right wavelength. So this wavelength works actually really well with my red laser, even though it's not meant to. But with this blue one, it cuts out a lot of the beam, but not enough that, you know, if it reflected off a surface and went directly in your eye, I think it would still cause serious eye damage. Yeah, they don't really bright on. Yeah, I've seen Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas years ago. Is that the one that's got Johnny Depp in it, or wherever it is, playing Hunter T. Thompson, whatever he's called, the bloke, the journalist who used to take lots of drugs? I have seen it. But yeah, the Red S10 outserts, I'm very interested in working out how good they actually are at stopping lasers, because if they were really for laser designators, you should be able to notice that, I reckon, with that. Is the S10 in this room? I think it might be. Let me get it, because I'm actually really interested in this now. I don't have a green laser handy, but I do have the red one and the blue one handy. So I can at least test that. What about a crossbow? So yeah, we weren't going to talk about gas masks, but because this one has the outserts on, this might actually be interesting. So again, let me pop this on first, because even though these aren't great, I'd still much rather be wearing them until these other ones come than wearing nothing at all. So let's see, how well does this stop a red laser going through? No, not that well, does it? So red lasers definitely aren't stopped by these outserts. I don't really want to burn a hole in them, but let's see what it does with these type of lasers. Yeah, they go through as well. So these might work with green lasers, I don't know, assuming that these actually do something with lasers. But yeah, because obviously it's just a red filter, this, but this might be a good enough standard that it would stop a green laser. I don't know. I'll have to get another green laser at some point and try it. which particular laser jelly? This one is 2 watts, so this one will permanently blind you if you shine it in your eye, which is why I've got better goggles coming for it, because I don't trust the goggles I've got at the moment. They're better than nothing, but, you know, these aren't really good enough. As in, for lower power lasers, I can probably demonstrate this on the camera. So this one, which is supposedly 200 milliwatts when it's fully charged, as you can see, that's pretty bright. If you shine this through there at it, look, you can probably see how much that reduces the amount of light coming through. So these work surprisingly well with this one. But as I said, the problem is, I'm just going to close my eyes when I do this for obvious reasons. Right, you can probably see there that there's probably a lot of light getting through there still. It definitely reduces it, because like if you look at the laser shining on a surface with these on, you don't get like arc eye. So they obviously do something. It's just I don't think they're good enough for what I want, and especially because I've got one 4 times the power of this one coming, and I think I'm going to get into an obsession with lasers fairly soon because I never realised Britain's law on lasers was actually so kind of good. I do have a welding thing, Rich. I'll test that. Styro Pyro said in the video, don't use welding goggles for lasers, but he didn't actually test it in that video. So I'm interested in actually doing that myself, because I would like to see, you know, in like a condition of if you had the welding thing down. Thank you, Grenadier. You get on the members streams now, which I do normally every other stream is a members one. When I bought the FM12, it was about £30 to £40 with the carrier. The outserts I bought separately, but yeah, the migraine's all gone today, Henry. It's weird because I didn't wake up with a migraine yesterday. I went to my granddad's to finish doing the tree I was doing in his garden, or the few trees I was, you know, like trimming and that, because there was still a little bit I hadn't done on them, and I wanted to get that finished, so it was all neat and tidy. I did that, and then it was like 5 minutes after sitting down, I just had a really strong migraine come on. Yeah, especially for a jacket, Brighto. Do you mean like the ones with the big pockets in? Because yeah, if you can get MTP for multi-terrain pattern for £20 for the bigger jacket, that's definitely worth it. Like generally the MTP shirts are about £10 to £15, but if you mean the jacket, you know, that's more like this, in the sense of, you know, it's designed to keep you warmer and it's got the bigger pockets, then yeah. Because the old windproof smocks, like they used to call them, are really good for that price. Yeah, like I said, Dan, I've been watching a lot of the Styro Pyro videos, you know, and it turns out lots of these cheap lasers are actually stronger than advertised, aren't they? That's the kind of more worrying thing. It's not like you buy something and you're scammed as in you get a weaker thing than that's advertised, like with a lot of products. No, it's like it's dangerously more powerful than a lot of them say. Yeah, jacket Brightor, that's definitely worth it for £20. I don't actually have the MTP jackets, but I know exactly what they're... Is it the raincoat type one, or is it like the one like this? But either way, that's good. I need to get some old nuclear goggles, Henry. It would depend on the wavelength, I think, because nuclear goggles are kind of like welding goggles in the sense that they basically just massively darken visible light. As in fish food guy, that type of cod, or do you mean Call of Duty? But in terms of... The thing is, I definitely reckon some wavelengths laser, you know, you would do a lot less damage if you had welding goggles on, but they're not the right spec for it. Because basically with laser goggles, most of them are in different wavelengths, and the idea is you get one that massively cuts down on what you see from the laser you're using, but you can still see visible light. Yeah, I said I got 3 MM1s all on eBay. Effective for what, Buzzbar? Against lasers, no. If you mean just for like working like sunshades, then yes. If it's an M10 really cheap, yeah, the normal fabric one. I mean the older British Army coats are Gore-Tex, but I do prefer the old German ones, the old British ones, as in like the 1990s, 2000s. Because although I like 95 DPM as a pattern, the German Flecktarn raincoats are, I found like the, you know, like the pull cords on that were a bit better on them. So I could get that one to always fit me better, even if you bought 2 in the same size. I also really do like Flecktarn as a camo. But yeah, an M10, if you want to just get a mask for basic filtering purposes and you can get one cheap, then get one. It's just I don't think they're very good masks as far as people wanting one for like prepping purposes. I haven't actually, like I said, I haven't seen Loathing and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas in ages, so I have to rewatch that for the gas masks. Lego guns. What you want to do? Go on eBay. Wait till somebody sells one for less than £300. That will occasionally happen. I think. Did I pay about $250 for mine? And Hype donated towards mine as well. But in all honesty, if you're looking at the £300 mark, I would personally see if you could get like a Gen 2 that happens to be very cheap as opposed to a Gen 1 Plus. Yeah, Jelly, I'll prove it to you if you want. Like I said, I need better goggles than these, really, but we'll get the good old bit of cardboard out again. I'll put some brand new batteries in it as well for burning. Where did I put that shard of cardboard I was burning the other day? There it is. Right. Let me put some new higher capacity batteries I freshly charged up for this video. So, there we go. Let's take out these two that are in there. Here are the higher capacity ones I ordered that came today. So basically exact same voltage, just they hold a higher milliamp charge. So, you know, the laser works longer with them in. And I've charged these up like an hour before I did the video using the charger that's got the digital display Hype sent me, which is pretty good. So, right, ready? I'll just hold it, see the burn marks there. I'll just hold it directly there and you'll see what will happen. Flick that off now. There you go. The smell's pretty disgusting with stuff like that. But yeah, this does burn stuff. If you watch the video I did on the other day, I showed it burning a load of stuff. Yeah, that's, as you can see, pretty effective on there. But as I said, the thing is, these goggles definitely work to a degree, but I'm not really going to trust them too much with this, just because, as I said, a laser fucking up your eyesight is a permanent thing, you know. I do, Mohammed. Have you not watched my videos? I keep debating whether to buy another Schmidt Rubin or like a Mannlicher at the moment. And yes, I know the Mannlicher is a funny name, but they've got like, there's a Mannlicher they've got in on that site, Worldwide Arms, that's like in not a very good condition. So you could probably polish it up quite well, but you know, it would never be safe to fire, but it'd still be a full working action, you know, for like doing rifle drills. That'd be quite good. I'm all right, Freddie. Thank you. Does it come with a bag and everything, Ward Bros? If it comes with a bag and everything, that's not too bad because you can always use the satchel it comes with as just a general like storage bag. If it doesn't come with a bag and it's just literally the mask and the filters for $29, that is a bit steep for an M10. Yes, certain. I don't know what the wavelengths of infrared are that can hurt your eyes, but yes, if you have a powerful enough laser that's in what you'd call, is it near IR, the one that's basically closer to the visible light spectrum? That can certainly damage your eyes. Because, for example, I think the IR thing that Hype sent me and what he also sent to Mike is a strong enough IR laser that if you looked into it with your eyes, you know, even though you can't really see it, it will cause eye damage. But the thing is, Alex saying, is that for the price of those DIAC guns, you can buy old working bolt actions that are obsolete calibers. And I kind of like the idea of buying a cheaper one that I know is not going to shoot, just because of the condition of the barrel or whatever, and having it as a project, you know, like clean it up, polish the wood on it. Yeah, Platoon's a good film. Full Metal Jacket's good. Hamburger Hill's all right. But yeah, I might buy a green laser again at some point, seeing as lasers are getting cheaper and cheaper now for decent ones. So I wouldn't mind getting a green laser, like, to the same sort of build style as this, just because green's really visible. PMG2s, again, the problem I'm going to find with the PMG2 is getting modern filters to fit on it, unless you can easily get Chinese or Russian filters. But the PMG2 isn't a bad mask, because it's essentially a GP5 with a voice diaphragm. Yeah, I really enjoyed it brighter when I first got my Schmidt Rubin. I think I did a video on it, didn't it? Or at least I took a load of photos where what I did was basically, you know, completely take all the wooden furniture off of it and, you know, totally oiled up all the metal, polished all the wood up, you know, to get it. What one are you talking about, Alex Saint? I'll link you to the webpage if you want, if it lets me. Worldwide Arms. Obsolete Rifles and Muskets. So, as I think it was JJ said in the other stream, they've got, if you want to get a Schmidt Rubin, annoyingly, I can't show you my Schmidt Rubin on the stream because YouTube policies doesn't let you handle firearms on the stream. But I've got a live Schmidt Rubin, and when I got mine, it was around that price on D&B Militaria. but they've been out of stock in a lot of places since. But as you can see, they've got a load of the Austrian Mannlichers. As you can see, the ones that are for restoration. Like, so they have a grade 3 one, and they have one that's like a lower grade for 175. That's not got the working bolt on that one, but so yeah, that would, like I said, thing, if you clean it up properly, that would still make a nice wall piece, and there would still be some bits on it that work. But yeah, PMG2s are all right, War Bros, but essentially all it is a GP5 a voice diaphragm. Do I still have a one behind me? Because I might, in all this clutter back here, still have one of the obviously that's a standard GP5 Shum 62. I did behind me at one point have the GP5M, but it might not be there anymore. I might have moved it somewhere else. But yeah, all a PMG2 is essentially this with a voice diaphragm on that bit, and they have ear holes on certain sizes. But you know. But yeah, let me just have a look on eBay at nuclear goggles, because I do actually want to get some nuclear goggles for shits and giggles. All the ones coming up are like modern ski goggles, though. I want, you know, like nuke test goggles, whatever they call them. Military atomic goggles. Are they only going to come up? Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's those giant old Soviet ones for like £50. That's a bit more than I'd pay for them, in all honesty. But yeah, I'd definitely at some point probably get some old atomic goggles just because they're cool. The idea, but they're essentially all they are is just like welding helmets, aren't they? It's just really, really dark coating. So when a bomb goes off, that's, you know, like the brightness of the sun. It's like, oh, I can see that without my eyes burning out. I think they're cool, Brightold, but I've never seen any for sale here. In theory, I think a lot of those would fall under the Antique and Obsolete Firearms Act in the UK. I've just never seen them for sale. Yeah, it's not a bad deal, War Bros. Like I said, the main issue you're going to have with a mask like that is getting the good filters for it, because obviously bear in mind the Soviets used a different type of 40mm filter to NATO countries. What can you legally own, Dan? An umbrella? I know there was a thing of old women talking about smacking people with umbrellas who didn't keep a distance from them. I've sold that Avon M50 now, but as I've said before loads of times, go on eBay. You'll just get lucky on eBay. If you search eBay enough, often people will just literally sell stuff if they want to sell it quickly. When I bought that M50, I think it was because it was a size small one, and it was on an auction and nobody else bid on it. Yeah, They Live, that's a great John Carpenter film. I'm a big John Carpenter fan. All right, Dan. Yeah, they had like old women on LBC going, I've got my umbrella, and then when these joggers come too close to me, I poke them. You know, but yeah, if you don't know French maker, if you go on eBay and look at things, you can sort auctions by ending soonest, and then if there's auctions ending soon that don't have bids on, it's worth just putting a bid on at the last minute. I think the bloke who was selling those M50s, I think his medium-sized ones all went over several £100, but I just think nobody bid on that one because it was a small. That's the one Stug bought off of me. Oh, I technically traded it with Stug for his PNV 57A night vision, which is a good trade for me because, you know, I didn't need the Avon M50 anymore. And if Stug wants the mask, then it's a good trade for me. You know, people trading surplus. What do you mean here or Poland, Brighto? In the UK, the black powder laws are really weird, as in a lot of them seem to be that kind of annoying thing where the law says one thing, but gun shops might not sell you something based on, you know, if they think they're going to be prosecuted on it. Yeah, there's Gunstar and Gun Trader. The problem I've had with some of those sites, Alex Saint, is there's often been stuff on there I've wanted to buy, and then you get the sellers who are just time wasters. Like, you know, where they put a few guns up that they don't actually have for sale at a really low price to try and get people to look at their stores. That's the problem I've had before, where like there was a really nice looking AK-74 on there for £300. Contacted a trader, no, I don't have it sale, but look at my other guns. It's like, yeah, but they're all like 500 to £1,000. I was on about the £300 gun that you had as your like top advertised one. All right, Tactical. Oh, did you hear about speaking about Russia? Did you hear in Parliament today? Boris Johnson quoted Prince Philip saying the thing of "I'd like to visit Russia, but those bastards killed half my family." He actually said that in Parliament, and I thought it was quite funny because I assume that was the Russian Revolution, was it, when a lot of the royalty got killed off over there, like with the Tsar and that. But I thought it was just quite funny. He said that in Parliament today. Yeah, that's the problem, Ward, is when I don't have slow mode on public streams, you will just get people spam the shit out of the chat. You know, you get a lot more trolls come on because they can spam the chat and then they have to get blocked and then they come back with a new account. Whereas if it takes 60 seconds for them to do each message, they can't really do it. But like I said, slow mode is one of the things I wish you didn't have to have it on because it can make chatting quite hard. But the problem is when there's too many people on the public stream, you can't really do it without slow mode just because otherwise you get, you know. All right, Rich, as well. Although I've probably already said hello to you, haven't I? Because we were on about the welding goggles. All right, Stu. I like pretty much every John Carpenter film. I've not seen all of them, Crazy Egg, because I haven't seen all of the ones he did, like the Elvis one and a couple of the others like that. But The Fog I really like, even though The Fog isn't one of his favourite films. Prince of Darkness is worth a watch, because Prince of Darkness is the one a lot of people don't like, but I think it's actually quite good. But it's one of the ones where I think the first time I watched it, I didn't quite get it. But like watching it again and again, I've kind of got a bit more appreciation for Prince of Darkness. Yeah, what am I, 95k something subs now? Let's have a look. 95,055. So there we go. I've never really watched The Walking Dead. I don't have anything against it, but I think The Walking Dead, and no spoilers for people who haven't seen The Walking Dead, because that's the only problem when you bring up TV series. Like people were like, "Oh, in Game of Thrones this happens," whatever. But I think The Walking Dead, from people I know who watched it, said it was like good for the first few series, and then it went really crap, like a lot of series go. I don't know if that's true or not. It's probably down to opinion, isn't it? But it's one of those things where because I knew a lot of people didn't like the later series, I never bothered watching it. Ah, yeah, Fuzzy. So yeah, that's exactly like what I've heard from my mates who watched it. You know, that they liked the earlier series and then they just thought it went downhill. Oh, so your best friend's great 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 grandfather was a commie, was he, Little Picker? That's sort of interesting. Situation what here with Corona or what? Well, with Corona, funnily enough, lots of things have reopened today, and I still haven't found out if I've got a job to go back to. But you know, it's that sort of problem where I think because the government's put furlough on for quite a while, a lot of companies are going to be quite stingy, I think, with the furlough, as in not having staff back until they definitely know they can afford to have them back. Well, most of the characters die is like the thing in every major TV series now, isn't it? But yeah, don't say which characters, because like I said, that's not fair for people who haven't watched it and actually might want to watch it. Um, Tactical, I can give you a crappy autograph and send you a bit of paper with it on if you really wanted it. You'd have to, in private, give me your address if you wanted it, and I might send you a freebie with it as like a nice little gift. But my autograph will just look like somebody who's had a stroke has tried to write their name. That wouldn't be very interesting, but I wouldn't mind. I could send you like a free little decimeter with it or something. Right. Well, with my job outside of YouTube, I won't go too much into it because of all like the doxing shit you have to put up with. But the problem is, if you don't know, with both volunteering and the actual job I've done because of Corona, it's one of those things where I've not been able to do them because government closing things. There's another job I started doing recently, but that's not very stable work. It's kind of like, you know, when you're paid to do a shift when they ask you to do a shift, and that's quite good. I quite enjoy that job, but again, that's only when, you know, the people want me to do it, kind of thing. But that's interesting, Rich. The thing I find interesting about John Carpenter as well, you might know this, is with like the Metal Gear series, it's kind of a rip-off of Snake, you know, Snake Plissken and Escape from New York, all that sort of stuff. But John Carpenter said he didn't want to sue Kojima or whatever it was because he thought Metal Gear was a good game. But he did sue somebody else for copying Escape from New York because he thought it was a shit film. So basically, John Carpenter's opinion on if you can steal his stuff is if you make a good product out of it or not, which I think is quite good. So if you rip him off and make a shit film, he'll sue you. But if you make a video game like Metal Gear, then he'll let it slide because it's a fun game. Yeah, Tactical. I wonder if people would actually be able to forge my signature well, because like my signature's always shit, But I think that was like they used to always have a go at me at school now, and I think that's one of the things they couldn't have a go at kids for anymore. Is when you have autism, because your brain like hand coordination is a bit shit. I think that's why my handwriting is always awful. Like with a lot of things like with autism, I think if you do it enough times, the muscle memory gets good enough, you can kind of get around it. But I found like at school, the teachers non-stop had a go at me saying like, "Oh, you'll fail your exams if you write like this because the examiners can't read it," and that's bollocks, that is not a thing. If an examiner can't read your paper, they pass it to somebody else. Oh, no, Stu, I didn't know about that. I might buy that though because I do like Romero's film. So is it like 3 different versions of it, as in like the US like cinema release, like the European release that was like had the Goblin soundtrack in, and I assume there's another release on there as well, like a director's cut or something. All right, and Volto. Yeah, well, the thing is, Litterpicker, I don't mind people that have shitty opinions in some sense, as long as they keep themselves. I more get pissed off when people are like horribly racist or stuff like that, because it's like the thing is with like anti-vax stuff. If somebody says I'm against vaccines, but I have no problem with other people having them, I just wouldn't have them myself. I don't really have an issue with that. It's more the people who just spread misinformation about them. Yeah, but I didn't mind school in all honesty. But it depends what lessons it were, because some lessons were a lot more interesting than others. So, if I went back and did school again, like, would I change the GCSEs I did? Maybe. I definitely wouldn't have done sixth form. I'd have gone to college. But I didn't find school good or bad, really. But I prefer now that as an adult, if you're forced to be somewhere for hours a day, you're making money doing it. Well, rest in peace to your, you say that was your granddad or your uncle? Oh, yeah, your grandfather. Rest in peace to Andrew then. It depends, inductive tea cake, on how obvious they are. But most people now just stare at their phones all day, don't they? So it's not really a problem because they don't look you in the face when they talk to you anyway. Well, Jelly, I'd say I definitely like the lasers because, I'm playing with them a lot. But as said, I've got those £80 laser goggles on the way now because I'm not messing about anymore with these type. They're better than nothing, but, the goggles do nothing. I still think a bad hit to those would, fry your eyes. But yeah, like I think that's the problem with hindsight, though, isn't it, Chocolate Muffin? There's a lot of stuff where, in hindsight, you would completely change your life, and then that would make you into a completely different person. That feels like it should be something in the Twilight Zone, doesn't it? Something like that. Somebody who keeps going back in time to try and fix their mistakes, but then keeps making everything worse. Well, no, I don't smoke anymore, Freddie, so I don't have any. Like, I've got less cigars in my hat because the ones I didn't smoke, generally, I've given away to friends that do smoke. I've still got some in the drawer. Yeah, fucking scumbags, aren't they, Alex Saint, people who do stuff like that. But yeah, I'm trying to think if we don't want the stream to get too depressing, but yeah, I definitely need to get a green laser. Let me look on AliExpress actually and see if I can find this brand laser, like with all this housing on, but just one in green because I know they do these in green and red, so I might as well get a green one again. Is dyspraxia or whatever they call it, like where your hand-eye coordination is shit? I certainly have that. Like if it's something I practice a lot, I can do it all right, but then that's like muscle memory. But they used to always do the things of like autistic kids where they'd throw a ball at them to see how badly you drop the ball when they throw it at you. That was like one of the ways they used to measure it. Like, although it's meant to be measured on proper psychological tests. Yeah, because it was a bit weird when I was at school. They kept putting me in and taking me out of special needs because they couldn't figure out if I was or not. I mean, in hindsight, I'd rather been in the special needs thing because then it meant I could have probably dossed about a lot and done a lot less work. But I certainly do have hand-eye coordination problems, especially if somebody tells you to do a task you're not really familiar with, that, for some people it'd be really easy. For me, I have to do it really slowly, or I'll like, fuck it up because my hands won't go where I think they'll go. But stuff you do enough and practice at, it's not really a problem. Like when I first started driving, I found doing gear shifts really difficult. Now it's just, again, it's like a second nature thing. And I know that would be the same for people without autism. It's just one of those things where when you do it enough, you don't even think about it. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, litter picker is, again, there's lots of stuff, isn't there, where there's a lot of stuff with science we don't really know. There's obviously like stuff with science we can be pretty certain with, stuff we don't really know. There's that cool stuff like all the dark matter stuff and, all that where we have no fucking clue. It could completely change our view on the world. In all honesty, Chocolate Muffin, I think you should learn stuff like tax at school, because a lot of the stuff you learn in school is going to be no use for your life, but lots of important life skills you don't learn in school. The main complaint I have with schooling type stuff, and I know a lot of academics have said this as well, is a lot of the time schools kind of like molding people into being ideal citizens, not actually letting them discover what career paths they'd actually enjoy doing. But also, I think because of the fact your brain's not fully developed by the time you're at school, you probably don't know what you want to do. Yeah, I've got Anomaly, Freddy. I've not played the latest version of Anomaly, even though lots of people have told me to. There's also that CryEngine mod now, isn't there? That's like Stalker remade in CryEngine. I've downloaded and not played yet. I mean, there's other channels, Alex Saint, that could do that much better than me, especially like American channels where they can actually fire the guns. I think Forgotten Weapons has done quite a few videos on like fire operating systems, like open bolt, closed bolt, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, the Flat Earth one is one I really don't get litter picker, because I've been to Finland, and according to the Flat Earthers, Finland doesn't exist, does it? It's like a fake country put on the globe that doesn't really exist, which makes no sense to me. But yeah, like the thing is, the problem I had, which I've gone over before with people, is when I went to school, they almost did like a bias sort of IQ test thing. It wasn't an IQ test, but I don't know if it was based on your SATs or whatever, or like your predicted grades. But if you got like A's and B's regularly, they try and funnel you into doing a university course. If you were like a C or D or E student, you often got funneled into doing like engineering, plumbing, that type of stuff. My friends that were less smart academically now make a lot more money. Oh, look, there's somebody imitating me. Let's block them. But anyway, I should get the verified ticket at least soon. But yeah, what was the thing? That, like, yeah, the problem was that they didn't really let you have a say. Like, unless you really, really strongly objected to how they kind of funneled you into doing stuff, everybody went along with it and then realised they didn't like it. Oh, that's quite cool, Joe. Is that like an air crewman's mask? Is it actually for filtering air, or is it like an oxygen mask type one? Because I know with like air crew masks, you get both types, don't you, depending on what the role was for. But yeah, I'm not really going to be the best person to explain like open bolt, closed bolt, because I get how a load of the systems work, but trying to demonstrate it with deactivated guns where bits are welded shut, or where I can't shoot a gun, it's a lot harder. Yeah, pretty much, Richard. You didn't go to Finland, you didn't. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Finland was real when I went there. Yeah, well, the thing is, Litter Picker, I think there's a lot of stuff where conspiracies can be kind of sensible until they go off the rails. Like, because the idea that lots of government and powerful corporations don't tell the truth and do dodgy stuff, that should just be for granted. It's when people go into like the full-on reptile, global conspiracy stuff, it gets a bit weird. Oh, that's very nice of you, Tactical, but the thing is, what power is it now? Just because the modern ones are so much more powerful and cheap. Like, if I bought one of these at the price these used to cost, this red one, it would cost more than this blue one would cost. But now, these blue ones are like $40, $50, aren't they? I think Hype said to buy for 2 watts. So, I could probably buy a 1 watt or half a watt green laser for probably like 10 to 20 quid. Sadly, I've never seen finished Stahlhelms at good prices over here. They've always been nearly German prices, as in, you know, £100, £200 plus. The closest I've got to that, although I don't think I have it in this room currently, is the Swiss Stahlhelm. You know, like the one that's like a Darth Vader version of the Stahlhelm. All right, see your tactical pyro. But yeah, at the moment, I've been, like I said, I'm trying to sell more stuff rather than get more stuff because the room, like saying, the room's already cluttered. I don't want to be tempted with more helmets, you know. I'd rather save money because at least the things like the laser pens, you can do a lot of videos with them and they literally just fit in a drawer. You know, all right, Brighton. But like I said, the problem is like with the helmets and that, helmets take up quite a bit of room. Like you can stack them inside each other, but they're even worse than gas masks for taking up room, I find. Yeah, I'll probably just buy a new one, Tactical, but thank you for the offer anyway. Like I said, I don't mind sending you some free decimeter pens. Well, as always, every month I have more savings in the account for the bunker, but it requires one to come up for sale in the price range I can afford. I didn't go to university. Like I said, I did sixth form. I thought it was a load of bollocks, and then I went and got a job as soon as I was 18. I don't think LX Saint there's really going to be much difference between 45 ACP and 9mm. Like, in theory, you could probably have more rounds in a 9mm mag, couldn't you? But in reality, modern firearms in either are going to be pretty good. And again, it always comes down to how good the shot placement is of the shooter. Like, 9mm and 45 are so similar in terms of cartridge size and foot-pounds of energy. Like, there are some pistol calibers that are quite different in terms of, like, either penetration or, like, you know, wounding potential. Like, Tokarev rounds are interesting because of how well they used to go through, like, jackets and things like you know, FN57 and things like that. But I think 9mm and 45, if there's one gun you're comfortable using, and either just stick with that. Yeah, you chocolate muffin, you don't buy, right, I'll explain this again. You buy a bunker that already exists. You don't bury one in your garden. They're called ROC posts, and there's a few other different types they did as well. How it works is basically they built loads of them during the Cold War. Loads of them have been trashed now. Some are on private land doing nothing. Some have been filled in, and some now and again come up for sale with a bit of land with them. I wouldn't sell my M1, and I don't have a proper M1, I'm afraid, Ryan. I've got a Danish M1 clone, and I've also got a French, whatever they called their helmet. Was it the M51 helmet, which is not an M1, but is clearly an M1. I wouldn't sell either of those, I'm afraid. But the thing is, I like the DIY bunker type things, but I want to get an ROC post because of the history of them. You know, it's a different kind of thing. Because part of the problem, as I said before, is in the UK is land is the expensive bit. So quite often you'll see that the ROC posts, although the condition does affect the price a bit, it often depends how much land they come with and where they are in the country when they get sold. But I don't want to be living here, Joe. That's the point. Right, let me get the picture out that's on this table somewhere, covered in shit. No, right, there it is. Here is a picture I bought to hold up to show people what an ROC post is who don't know. The reflection's always annoying, but let's just make that full screen. So what an ROC post is a little sort of 2-man to 4-man nuclear bunker that was basically for monitoring the direction of fallout, seismic activity. You get a ladder room with a pump in it for pumping out water. You've got a chemical toilet, and you've got like the living room sort of workstation room. But, you know, the reason I want one is sometimes they go very cheap. Surviving the Apocalypse, who comes on here sometimes, and I watch his videos, actually has an ROC post he runs as a museum. But there's a video where I went to an ROC post that's not too far from where I live. Sadly, it's been trashed, but it was interesting to go see one in person. Your GP5 won't be a replica, Freddy, because it's the most mass-produced mask in world history. It will be somebody claiming a real GP5 is a replica. Like the cheapest modern one, Bright, or just one you can buy as surplus. Generally, stuff from your own country, if you can buy it, is cheapest. Like, doesn't Poland have like the WZ2000 helmet or something like that? So in Poland, that might be the cheapest option because generally domestic surplus tends to be pretty cheap in countries. But if not, second-hand Pasket-style helmets. British Mark 6A helmets are Kevlar, not particularly good, but they are Kevlar. Regular Mark 6s aren't, the Mark 6A is. I think, Jude, it would just completely depend on the model, wouldn't it? You'd have to find something that you're comfortable shooting, has a mag size you want, all that, because like there's a lot of good Paul Harrell videos on things like, pistols. And he always makes the point that, it has to be something you'd be comfortable carrying, because if you leave it at home, it's useless, as in terms of like a concealed carry pistol or whatever. So for some people, a smaller pistol they'd carry every day is better than one with, bigger capacity that you're never going to carry on you. Yeah, good luck having that pulled out, LX8. They're not pleasant. I've had them removed twice, so when I had them remove it the second time, I was like, put enough acid on the nail bed, nothing will ever grow back. Don't cut along the thing, pull the entire fucking thing out. So I still have no nail on that toe, that's all right. Yeah, Polish MP4 kit for $27. It's better than the M10, I'd say, the MP4. Yes and no, actually. I think in some ways the M10 feels a bit better quality, but the MP4 does another way. It's up to you, but well, I'm in the UK, bear in mind, so obviously I can't own handguns here, but if you want to know the channel I was on about, let me link you to Paul Harrell. He's an ex-US Marine, isn't he? And he's like a very, very competent marksman, but he does lots of good, videos on... So if you look at that channel, Jude, he does lots of good videos comparing handguns, like manufacturers of cartridges, Right, Stug, we were on about the M50 you bought off of me a bit earlier in the stream. It was just somebody was saying, how did I get an M50 that cheap? Well, just look on eBay till one turns up cheap. Yeah, so Brighthole, yeah, if, like Ryan says, if you can get Polish, those helmets, they're all right Kevlar ones. They're a bit bulky, aren't they, WZ2000? But again, they're bulky and all right. What did I say when they pulled it out? Or what did I say when I told them to burn the fucking thing off? But I didn't say burn the fucking thing off. But basically, when I had to go back in for a second time after there was a lot where they didn't want to refer me, because it's not grown enough yet. So you kept having to be given antibiotics, which is not a good idea. When I saw the surgeon, I was like, look, this has been causing me real problems. I'd rather you just do a thorough job and nothing ever grows back, essentially, than do a job where 6 months later it might start growing back in again. Well, it depends how bad your ingrowing toenail is, Alex saying. If you're lucky, you might have one that they can just clip a bit off, that'll be it. But if you get a bad ingrowing toenail, they essentially have to completely remove the toenail. But, they give you anesthetic when they do it. It's not like somebody gets pliers and just rips your toenail off. But when my ingrowing toenail was really painful, I did buy all the surgical gear myself. And I just sanitized the stuff and I just ripped part of the toenail out. Thank you, person who sorted out the block. I don't know if you're actually... Oh, yeah, it says they're hidden. Yeah, I was just going to do it. We've had a few weirdos come on, because slow mode's on, they can't really spam the... Yeah, I used to do judo. I didn't do it for very long. I like judo, though, but... I think I've had the problem with martial arts a bit like what Mike says when he brought it up. It just feels a bit weird doing it with, like, random people you don't know sometimes. Somebody was on about wishing him luck with toenail removal. Yeah, that's the thing, Alex, saying if they're that sort of problem, you just want to go in and have them removed. You'd rather have an the operation isn't painful. The problem you will find is as the anesthetic wears off on your foot, you're going to be in a lot of pain for like a day or so. But just take a load of painkillers. But I'd say personally, I do not regret having the entire thing taken off when I had mine done. Like, obviously, it's up to you, but because, like I said, the first time I had it done, they basically just clipped along the sides of the nail and then put a bit of acid on the nail bed. I made sure the surgeon the second time, took the whole thing off, coated my foot in, acid to the extent I had a bit of skin burns on the rest of my toe, but that way nothing grew back. As in recoilless rifles, Marble, or something else when you say rocket rifles. You also get like those rocket or weird handgun rounds, don't you? I think Forgotten Weapons has covered them. Aren't they in You Only Live Twice, those weird rocket pistol things? Unless you're on about something completely different. But obviously, over here, you civilians cannot own recoilless rifles as far as I'm aware. As fun as it would be to have You know, something like a Carl Gustav recoilless rocket. No, you can't own them here. Yeah, that's an all right price as long as the liner's all right in it, Brighto. It's meant to be a very good helmet because I think when one of the channels tested them, they perform better than a lot of like American Kevlar helmets from the same period. Gyrojets, that's the one, Jake. Yeah, that's the one, Gyrojets. Feeling any side effects for it yet, Inductive Tea Cake? When I had my Oxford AstraZeneca, no side effects for a few hours, then I had a sore arm, then I felt really sleepy. That night I was very achy. I had like mild flu symptoms for 2 days and then everything went away. I'm trying to think, Litter Picker, if I saw anything horrifying recently. I'm sure I did. But I'm trying to remember what it was. It was some kind of like surgical thing or like some sort of, accident. There's that weird thing where like you get a load of real gore on YouTube that's apparently completely okay and allowed because it's like a medical thing. But like film violence isn't allowed. I swear there was something I got linked to that was like some sort of horrific injury. The Moderna. Yeah, I don't know anybody who had Moderna. Everybody I know has had Oxford AstraZeneca, but that's because they went to like, the places they could give it out easily. But the Moderna, I think, doesn't have to be refrigerated to a stupid temperature, does it, like the Pfizer? I know. Well, I had that sort of problem, Alex, with mine, even when there wasn't COVID, going back a few years ago, where they're going like, oh, it might be a bit ingrown, but it's not really bad enough for us to refer you yet. But yeah, so like I said, when I got fed up, I just bought some nasty looking tools. Did quite a good job. A lot of blood came out. But the funny thing is, when I first went in for that thing, they said, "Oh, this doesn't look too bad." I was like, "That's because I cut it myself," and they were like, "You did a good job of it, but the NHS would never recommend you do self surgery." When you say the GP6, do you mean the GP5M or the GP7? I recognise the name of that litter picker, but I don't think I've actually seen it. But I've definitely done videos showing GP5s with hoses on because it was a pretty common thing for Soviet masks to have, a hose screwed into the bottom of them. But again, if you're interested, I've done videos explaining the pros and cons of using hoses with masks. The pro thing is you can have a bigger filter in the satchel, and the satchel takes the weight of the filter. The con is basically that there's a lot more bulk with the mask than just having like a little filter there. All right, for the people who have been literally ignoring stuff we've been talking about for the last 5 minutes, I can't be asked to remind you of stuff that you've been listening to. What's Rafe Fiennes done? Why would the NHS love him? The thing is, Brighto, are you actually buying it to protect you from shrapnel or bullets, or are you just buying it for airsoft? Because if you're buying it for airsoft, I just go for the cheapest one. As long as it's the real deal. It's like one's probably in a bit more questionable condition, but for airsoft, a Kevlar helmet will be fine. When is the stream over? When I end it? It'll be on another 20 minutes or so. It's quite a good conversation for the most part today. Is that the Explorer bloke, Nick? I assume not the actor Rafe Fiennes. I assume you mean the Explorer bloke, do you? I'm probably getting them mixed up in my head. As far as I knew, he still has all his limbs, doesn't he, the actor? Yeah, Ryan, a load of people that work with my mum apparently said that when they had that vaccine, they weren't in for a day or two. Like, they were off sick with flu symptoms. And some of those, like, people that never take days off sick, apparently. So they weren't, pulling a sickie. I think they just did feel pretty achy from it. I think I've got the Polish one that has a name like that, coronavirus prepper, but I don't think that one doesn't have the hose. I'm pretty sure that one I'm thinking of is just literally a GP4 copy. Yeah, good idea, Stug. Don't forget to like the stream. Yeah, $12 for a GP5 is fine because, even if you don't use it for anything serious, you've got a mask. But again, just be careful using the old filters because GP5 filters do contain asbestos. Only like 2% of the filter is asbestos because it's woven into a compound. But still, don't breathe through the filter unless you have to. All right, that's all right, Mike. I'll watch a film tonight then. If I'm in the mood to watch a film with subtitles, I'll watch that one you recommended, that Climax one. If not, I'll just watch something like a comedy film or something. I don't think it's the MA1 I have then. Let me look, Brighto. It might be in this room. It might be up on that shelf there. Let me have a look. Right, is it this one? If not, I don't know where I've got it stored. But... It might be a different one I'm thinking of, Brighto. I'm not sure. But it had a name like that, but... This is the one I'm thinking of. This one has a sewn-on hose. Yeah, this is like the Polish GP4 I like more than the GP4 because it actually fits my face better. I might watch a little picker. Is it a depressing film? It sounds like it might be a bit depressing. So I have to be in the mood to watch a film like that. Sometimes I just want to watch like a comedy film. What, you mean when they do the vaccine up your nose? Can't you just look away? Oh, what you mean when they take your toenail off, Alex saying? It's not really anything to worry about with needles. Can't you just look away? You'll just feel a bit of a jab and that will be it. But again, if it's like a proper phobia, then you would be properly scared of it, wouldn't you? But I've just never had a needle phobia. Not the one with the IR, Jake. That was the one I traded my M50 with Stug for. All right, Mike, I don't think I've seen that one either. Genre of music. It's pretty hard to say now what my favourite genre of music is because I listen to quite a lot of different genres. I quite like 70s prog rock. This is an ML, not an MA1. Thank you, Brian. That rings a bell. But yeah, I just couldn't remember. I knew it had a name sort of similar to Soviet GP4 just because it's a better rubber. But yeah, I quite like 70s prog rock. I like a lot of industrial stuff as well, but that doesn't mean I like all industrial because I'll listen to some industrial and think it's just crap. I quite like Time Fluke stuff. I don't think they've ever done stuff in years now. As in Rainbow Six, no, because they just broke the balance on it completely with loads and loads of DLC. Oh, you're on about Weapon Collector. I'm pretty sure it's just Weapon Collector, isn't it? I can link you to his channel if you want. Weapon Collector, Twitch TV Weapon Collector. There you go. That's his thing. Which one's the SSH-68N Stug? I'm assuming it's a Soviet mask with a name like that. Let's Google it. Oh wait, no, it's a helmet, isn't it? You were saying it's like the Kevlar, like aramid version of the regular SSH helmet. I was thinking it was a mask for some reason. No, I think somebody was on about gifting me Escape from Tarkov recently. Have they fixed all the microtransaction bollocks with it? Because that was the reason I never got into it originally, was because of... Yeah, I mean, box filters are cool, aren't they? I mean, I suppose if you have a filter like this, the British World War II filters are exactly like this, aren't they? In kind of a degree. I mean, I know the British ones, the holes are actually inside for the air intake, but they're basically just this in orange. But yeah, I think filters like this look really cool. Just the problem is a lot of them have slightly dodgy material you don't want to be breathing today, for safety reasons. But in general practice, yeah, I like filters like that. Yeah, because it means helmet mask, doesn't it, Brighto? Yeah, Schlem, yeah. Or Shalem, however it's pronounced. But yes, I do know what you mean, yeah. Although I was kind of being dumb there. I think you can understand why I was making that kind of forgetting which ones are masks and which ones are helmets. Yeah, I'll have a look at some point, but I'm not in a rush to get it, just because at the moment, like I said, I don't really want to be spending too much money on video games and that. And if I am buying games, I generally prefer single player ones at the moment. Exactly right. So that's why you get a modern, safe version of an old filter like that, not the oldest possible ones. Now, the only problem with masks like this is getting back in their fucking carriers. Because I guess for economy reasons, they made carriers that weren't quite big enough for the masks and the hose. Or maybe it was like a one-size-fits-all bag, so the larger your mask, the harder it is to fit in. I mean, I know that will fit in like that, but it's just not as good as I like it. Maybe there's more of an art to this than I've not mastered. But yeah, that's going to crush the hose now if I put that in there like that. I have no fucking clue. I've played nearly all the GTAs, I think, including the really old GTAs. I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2 I've played more than any of the GTAs, I'd say. I just find them interesting, Freddy, and they're cheap compared to lots of... Well, they were cheap. Corona happened, and they're not now. Some of the filters you can add an additional particular layer, though, can't you, Brighthole, quite easily? Like, some have things where you can actually screw a particle filter on. Others have got the thing where... like you can very easily get a rubber band and put like a flat kind of 3M style disc filter at the bottom. How do you mean? If you've got a 40mm hose balaclava and you've got a 60 to 40mm adapter, as in, you know, like you've got a Finnish M61 or something, a hose will connect, but bear in mind Soviet hoses are GOST, so you need a NATO hose technically. That's a shame, Steve. Is it one of those ones where in development it looked a lot like it was going to be Stalker? But like saying, the main reason I had an issue with it was I know when it first came out, they were doing the things like there was all the different priced versions of the game that gave you like a pay-to-win aspect. But like I said, at the moment, there's not been that many games that have interested me. Evil Genius 2 is all right, but I've not completed that yet. But I have to be in the mood to play them. You know, because sometimes I'm just not in the mood to play games. Can't concentrate, no, really bored. Like Jerry Jackson. But yeah, that's my only complaint with this, is the mask doesn't really fit in very well. I've put what that was in the description, Food Guy, because it was just like a royalty-free bit of music hype put on the video. Because a lot of people who watched that weren't reading the description and they thought it was a video I made. No, it's one where Hype said, could I also put on my channel to get more views? And I've also put a link to his channel in there. Yeah, I think I've seen that before, Bright. They do Riot helmets as well, don't they? If it's still like 150 quid for a bigger case, I'm really not interested. What do you mean? Well, the thing is, if you were wearing a mask like that and it worked, you wouldn't be found dead, would you? Would you mean, would I wear one? Yeah, I've got, if something protects you, I've got no grips with if it looks stupid. But the thing is, I've got much better modern masks than that, so I wouldn't need to wear like a Finnish you know, for M61 or an American M9. But you know, personally, I wouldn't worry about what a mask looks like if it kept you alive. Oh, it's also a practicality thing, isn't it, though, inductive TK? Because I think there's a lot of stuff like that where people sometimes spend loads of money prepping for stuff that's not really going to happen, and then just don't, you know, have a lot of stuff. Like I said, I'm not a prepper anyway, so. Is that a channel history secrets, Food Guy? If so, I don't know if I've watched them or not. You'd have to say some of their, like, popular videos. There's a channel I found a while ago, I can't remember what it's called, that's quite interesting. And it's all about, like, horrible inventions from the past that accidentally killed people. I'm trying to remember what the channel is, but there's one, right, I'll hide the person spamming the chat. But there's, yeah, there was all, like, Victorian, the things like where the Victorians would have flour and they'd have, like, arsenic in the same style containers. So people would just randomly shake one into the food, like, not looking at the label. Yeah, like in the UK, Brighthole, there's lots of areas where people live in flood zones, and we were talking about this on Mike's stream the other day, that the government now literally tells you to have, you know, like an emergency, they don't call it a bug out bag, but, you know, like an emergency kind of survival kit in your house. So, you know, if you get a warning, you can actually evacuate with the stuff really quickly. And again, yeah, if you live in a flood zone, that's sensible. But if you don't live in a flood zone, you don't really have to worry about flooding, unless there's some sort of biblical flood, or at least not in the short term. But yeah, like I would agree with you, Brightold, that it makes more sense probably to prep for stuff that are like the most likely to happen to the least likely to happen, rather than just saying, "Oh, that one sounds scary, so I'm going to pick that one." There are stalker mods, Freddy, that add loads of gas masks to the game, but a lot of them are kind of cosmetic, if that makes sense, where, like, they're a bit annoying, as in, they'll either do the thing of the more expensive gas masks give you way better levels of protection, even though in the game that shouldn't really work, because it would be down to the filter more than anything, or they'll do the annoying thing of, like, every single mask is the same, so it's just a cosmetic thing, like, where it really needs to be kind of a mix between the two. Yeah, see, again, wildfires, if you live near a forest, is a sensible thing to be worried about. But yeah, that's the thing, like with prepping. I think it's sensible as long as people take it as sensible. It's just when they get like into the crazy survivalist thing. It's like when people go to me like, "Oh, why do you want to buy a bunker? You still wouldn't survive a nuclear war." It's like, I'm not buying one for the intention of nuclear war. It's just because they're cheap and they're cool old bits of history. Most unrealistic gas mask. Well, I've seen loads of gas masks in films where they don't have filters on, but there's probably dumber ones than that. They just don't spring to mind. I suppose so, Steve. That makes sense. I wasn't really saying people like actually seriously prepping for zombies. I was just sort of meaning, sometimes you get the people who are like obsessed that there's going to be EMPs and nukes going off and all that, but they've not really taken into an account like what if they get evicted or something like that. You know what I mean? What do I like most about the UK? I don't know. I wouldn't say the weather. Not if you get acute radiation syndrome, Freddie. I mean, they wouldn't kill you instantly, but you'd have a death sentence from that level of radiation. Well, the thing is, Little Pick, I definitely think if certain things happened, like if there was a radiation leak, I'd know pretty fast, even if it was hushed up. Yeah, I've still got the brain gun. Can't show it on the stream though, can I? Because YouTube's policy. But the thing is with deactivated guns is if you buy one, it's generally quite a pain in the ass to sell one again. I have got a massive battery bank in the other room, Brighto. I literally bought it so I could go to work for a full day and run stuff off the battery bank. And it also is good because it has different voltage output, so you can plug in different kinds of plugs. But that's one that is meant to like charge a phone for like 24 plus hours. But tell you, they're not easy to get new GOST filters. You can get new Chinese filters that are generally GOST. There are new Russian and Czech filters that are GOST. There's probably Marspo ones, but again, it's whether or not you can find somebody selling them. I quite like old British comedies, but not the newer ones because they're not funny. I think the problem is, though, you can't really have radiation be very realistic in a game. Just because of the fact that, again, if it's something that's going to kill you in several days' time, how would you really represent that as a gameplay element? I think it really depends on the model, Stug. Some of the ones Hyper sent me before have been really good, but yeah, there's lots of shit commercial Chinese filters, but the Chinese military stuff is generally all right, or like the stuff that's made for industry using the same tooling as the military. Well, it used to be that you could get FP5s all over eBay, although you want to actually get the one called P5s, not FP5s, if you want it to work for sure on a GOST mask, because it turns out FP5s aren't GOST threaded, but sometimes you'll buy an FP5 that has a GOST thread. It's really weird. I think it's either like a mislabeling thing or like oversupply things. Yep, that's quite a famous one, wasn't it? Because they filmed downrange of the Nevada test sites. And yeah, they took fucking sand, didn't they, from where they were filming it to use it in the studio as well, so it looked closer to the sand when they are outside. There's even a picture, let me get up, where they're like watching a Geiger counter. Like, isn't that realistic? You know, where imagine that today. Like, people are like kind of too, you know, have too strong a phobia nowadays of radiation. But like back then, they're like, oh, look how cool this is. So yeah, look at this. If you've not seen this, that's they've got a Geiger counter there or some sort of survey meter, and John Wayne's with his kids. He's like, oh, look at that, the Geiger counter's going off. That's probably an awful John Wayne impression. I can't remember how John Wayne talks, but yeah, it like, yes, that's going off because you're in an irradiated fucking nuclear like fallout zone. Didn't Howard Hughes apparently go mad watching that film over and over again on the projector while like pissing and shitting in bottles? I know Howard Hughes did go fucking crazy though, didn't he? But some of the Chinese military stuff, Claire, is built properly because they're trying to take over the world. So again, it's the difference between Chinese commercially sold stuff and stuff that's made for, you know, like the CCP's own ambitions. It's like that NNVT night vision I've got. That's Chinese military. That's nearly as good as the US stuff. I know a lot of Americans will deny that because they like to pretend, you know, that only the best stuff is made in America and nobody else can make good stuff. But, you know, that kind of worries me. You know, like the CCP is aggressively expanding into like the South China Sea, doing some horrible stuff in parts of Asia, and they are coming up with good military tech, you know. But again, that's very different than the stuff they sell on eBay under false pretenses, you know. Yeah, I've played all the Counter-Strikes, including Condition Zero, because that's the one where you say Condition Zero to people and they don't know what you're on about. I kind of like just, you know, traditional tea food guy, as in what you'd call English breakfast tea, or black tea, or sometimes red tea. Well, to protect from radiation, you technically need a mask which has a thing called a reactor filter on it, but they're not very common. But with masks, a mask itself isn't really going to protect you from radiation very well. The point is it filters the air you're breathing. But, you know, the point is with radiation is you don't want to be around it. All right, Tyre? Well, yeah, again, Claire, like I said, it's the stuff they make for their own kind of top people is very well made. Like, it was like there was the Soviets, you know, there was a lot of crap they made, but some of the stuff they made for, like, the military was really good. I just answered you, food guy. Learn to listen. Was that the one on that bloke's channel with the NBC suit, or was that something else? But yeah, I have seen people do really stupid stuff with radiation before, and bear in mind this is coming from somebody who likes going, "Oh, this makes my Geiger counter tick." But even then, there's some videos on YouTube that really make me go, "What the fuck are you doing on some of these videos?" What do you define as major radiation? I've had X-rays before. That gives you a pretty high dose for what they are. But you know, I've never been in a reactor accident or been, you know, downwind of fallout. Yeah, well, that's the thing, litter picker, isn't it? It's, I think because there's so much like factory produced stuff in China, you're going to get good and bad stuff coming from China. All right, Josh. Yeah, but I still haven't found out if I've got a job to go back to, Josh. This is the problem, that they're easing lockdown, but then when you often contact companies, they don't know what financial position they're going to be in to have staff back. I have no idea what you mean by solar winds. Is that a sci-fi thing, or is it like some sort of energy production? I know about solar power, and I know what wind power is. Or are you saying, what do I think of solar and wind power? As long as you make renewable, you know, sources, the stuff that, you know, like the turbines or the panels that are efficient, then it's good. But, you know, if you have turbines that keep killing the birds and breaking down, then they're not very good. Some of it does, Jack, but bear in mind, first, the bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki were airbursts. They weren't ground bursts. So what happens is when an airburst goes off, the the airburst doesn't pull like the soil into the explosion because it goes off in the air. That neutrons still hit things that make stuff radioactive, and there is still some fallout. But for the most part, it's kind of like people in the vicinity who didn't get burned to death might have got fatal radiation poisoning or very bad radiation poisoning. It's not the sort of radiation that sticks around. Wow, Jake, you can't really live in a vehicle. I mean, you can, but it seems to me a waste of money. As in, you can sleep in your car the same way you could sleep in an APC, I guess, or you could probably sleep more comfortably in an APC. But, you know, the taxes and, well, not sure the taxes, but the fuel costs for a military vehicle are fucking insane if you're on about APCs and things like that. I think it depends on the kind of businesses they're in, Jude, because if you're in a business where they can see themselves bouncing back from Corona, wow, it's all right. If you're in a business that's like, yeah, let's say you worked in some sort of hospitality job and you've been forced closed by the government for months and months and months, but not all your fees have been paid by the government, and you don't know how many people are going to be coming back in when you open up, and you're still going to have to do some restrictions that limit the amount of customers, it's really hard for those companies to know how many staff they can feasibly keep on. You mean the Bob Semple coronavirus prepper? That's the Bob Semple tank. It doesn't sound too daft to me, Ryan, but I've never really read into it. I find like solar flares interesting that shoot out shitloads of cosmic gamma radiation, but you know, again, there's stuff like that doesn't really concern me because if the sun blows up, I'm dead. There's nothing I can do about it. I don't like many of the politicians, Jack. So that's the simple answer to your question. But you know, it's. I wish in the UK we didn't have a two-party system. I wish we had proportional representation where you get a lot more interesting like parties with different viewpoints, you know, rather than it either be Tories or Labour, and then now and again the Lib Dems. Yeah, that's the problem though. But the problem is, Joshua, that the government isn't saying that, are they? That's the issue, because I've had my first vaccine. I'm waiting for my second one. And I know loads of people that have been vaccinated, but the government's still going like, oh, no, we might have to be really cautious about it and destroy more industries. Oh, great. Let's see what you're on about right off that. I don't want it to show me notifications. Click allow to continue. No, I'm not doing that. What have you linked, Brighton? Well, if there was a nuclear war, we'd all be dead if it was a major engagement, so I wouldn't worry about it. You know, there's if there was like a full-on mutually assured destruction event, I wouldn't worry about it because you'd be dead. You know, that's the simple reality of it. Watch Freds, and then go, oh, this is the reality. Well, I have no way of knowing, Jack, if Hitler survived or is dead. I'd like to think Hitler died in agony because he was a cunt, but you know, you never know with evil bastards. Yeah, suppose that's an interesting point, right? Although, haven't they found now some cosmic gamma rays go faster than the speed of light? I'm pretty sure there's like a lot of modern science where they figured that out now. So in theory, we could have been fried by the gamma rays before we even die of the cold. I don't know. Yeah, I have, because you know Corona's a thing, Freddie. So you know I didn't want to get Corona, but I'm vaccinated now, so I still wear a mask. But well, Trengai, this isn't a politics stream, is it? But for the most part, I'd say I'm pretty liberal libertarian in the meaning of the word of just like I don't like the government fucking with individuals' business. Like I'm not somebody who thinks you should get rid of government and institutions altogether, but for the most part, I think most stuff should be just legal. You know, because I don't like the government having a say over morality, especially when it's things like, you know, like, oh, you can take this drug but not that drug, because that's where I just really don't get government's logic on stuff like that. Well, some of those are printed out, as in literally with a printer. You know, you go on Google Images and print them out. But again, I think the problem with most ideologies is if you go full on the ideology, they get stupid. Like if you take libertarian type stuff full on, you become like, you know, an ANCAP, where it's like, I should be allowed to shoot people who literally step a foot over my property line. You know, there's you know, the things with ideologies is most of the time people, if they keep them to themselves, you know, it's a bit like religion, politics, isn't it? You know, I don't mind people having different opinions, just don't push it on everybody else. All right, Welsh lad, I'll stay on a bit, Dan, but you've come on an hour and 15 minutes into this stream. Exactly, Ryan, because, yeah, if you know how bad it would get, you'd rather be killed, wouldn't you, instantly in the blast, essentially, than suffering from disease or radiation sickness or starvation or whatever else, you know, a few days to weeks after the blast, if you survive the blast. Favorite World War II tank? Well, the best one was probably the late model Shermans, just because of, like, had they had a good gun, they had all round good armor. You know, they were quite reliable. Because the problem is with World War II tanks, if you think about stuff like Tiger IIs, they're really fucking cool tanks, but they weren't very reliable, especially when you consider, like, you know, the weight to engine ratios of them. I've not actually seen that, Jim. I'm trying to think if I've seen stuff like that. There's what's the one in America called that's a bit like that? Is that the Bay, the one where there's like the woodlice creatures that get inside people? That's quite good. You know, like a body horror sort of film. It's like a found footage one about you know, these isopods that get in people. But I don't think I've seen the lake. Oh yeah, because Claire, the big government big shots, they've got their bunkers, haven't they? And whatever they want. It's always normal people that suffer in wars. I haven't played chess in years, Tim, but I do know how to play chess, yes. Yeah, that's like the meme about them, Stug, isn't it? That like, oh, you can't get out of them. And then I think, was it the Tank Museum or one of those did like a video comparing loads of World War II tanks, and the Sherman was like the fastest one to get out of, minus like one or two. You know, even though it has the reputation of being like the Tommy Cooker or whatever, or the Ronson tank. But yeah, like the thing is with the late model Shermans is a really interesting thing is they actually had quite early gyroscopic stabilizers in them, but the Americans for some reason didn't train a lot of the crews how to use them. And apparently, the Sherman crews that were trained to use the stabilizers had really good kill-death ratios of their tanks, but you know, like for some reason they didn't train most of the Sherman crews that they actually had this feature in the tank. Oh, T-34 is very good for mass production, but it's not the best tank on tank. But again, you know, the T-34, the Soviets made more T-34s in 1 year alone, didn't they? Than like every single German armored vehicle combined built in that year, which gives you some idea of how good they were for mass production. Today, Dan, not a lot. I ordered some very strong laser safety glasses because my current ones aren't strong enough, and I don't want to burn my eyes out when my new laser comes. But Panzer IVs didn't have very good armor. I mean, the Panzer IV was good for like when it came out, but you know they didn't have all that good armor, did they? Some of the Panzer IVs had all right guns on, I think, if I remember right. But yeah, the problem with the Panzer IV is, you know, later into the war, most things with, you know, like an anti-tank gun would just go straight through the front of them. That's pretty interesting, Warwick. Well, yeah, that's the thing though. T-34s are a good example of like mass production, aren't they? They served their purpose and they did it well, but you know, if you were in a tank, you probably wouldn't want to be in a T-34 in terms of survivability. What do you mean, the little German fighter planes? They had what, Messerschmitts or Bf-109s, technically. Fokker Wolfs, Stuka dive bombers, Sturmkampfflugzeugs. Obviously, they had bigger planes. They had some of like the little. They had the early rocket fighters, didn't they? Like the 262, whatever it was, the Swallow. Do you want to see the laser? I'll put the glasses back on then. Like I've said before, these aren't very good laser glasses. I'm not going to rely on these. That's why I've got the £80 ones coming tomorrow, which are like, proper like lab grade spec ones. But I'll get the cardboard out again as well. It's there on the desk. All right, here we go. I was just literally showing it, Stuart. It's the 2 milliwatt. There's not 2 milliwatt, the 2 watt one I did a video on recently. So, a fucking cool laser, but, you have to be careful with it. Wasn't there a French tank like that, Ryan, that was... I think there was both a French and a Russian tank. I don't know how many they built, or if it was just a prototype, which was like a really long tank, wasn't it? Almost like a battleship, but as a tank. Right. You can, Hype sent me mine, and I know he buys and sells them, so you could literally ask him. That's what I'd say. But I think they do turn up on AliExpress, but you're probably better buying it from, a Chinese contact, so you're getting the right type and not the ones where they massively under or overspec it. Because Styro Pyro did a video where he bought one on US eBay that was meant to be half a watt or something, or 50 milliwatts, and it was 1.5 watt when he got it, So they advertise it as one that falls under a thing where it shouldn't give you permanent eye damage, and if you used it and didn't have safety glasses on, you could permanently blind yourself in a second with it because of they're literally lying to get it through regulations. Britain also had a jet fighter around the same time. Wasn't it the Meteor, the British one? Watch latest video I did, Claire, the one he technically did and wanted me to upload it, and there's a link to his channel in the description. I knew what you meant, Drew. I mean, a laser is a light, isn't it? But yeah, apparently, if you're in America, these turn up on America a lot, but they claim they're a really low power rating, and then when you get them, fun fact, they're not, because, to legally sell them in America, they have to be under a certain power rating, so they just lie. And apparently there's even US suppliers that get them in and sell them for that. But like I said, if you're going to get a laser this strong, please, please, please spend a minimum of $50 on laser goggles and get the really good ones. Don't get ones like this. I mean, these are better than nothing, but still, these aren't good enough. That's why I've got the really expensive ones on order, because, after watching some videos today of powerful lasers, I'm like, yeah, I'm not using anything but the best goggles now. Oh, yeah, they had the massive flamethrower one. I know the one you mean, Warwick. Yeah, I mean, the Germans made really good small arms, Connor. Don't get me wrong, MP40, the Sturmgewehr 44, some of the FG42 was fucking amazing. What was Jack the film fanatic on about? Sorry. Yeah, for the most part, Jack, it was just because Japanese tanks are pretty awful as well. Some of the American tanks are all right. Late war American tanks are certainly good, but yeah, in better, I'd say the Germans just had a more modern idea of what tanks should have been like. But by the end of the war, the German tanks, it was kind of the other way around, where they were just too heavy on resources and not enough spare parts for spares and repairs. Yeah, they're very heavy for what they are, aren't they, FG42s? But the thing is with an FG42 is you have to think that's a very early battle rifle, sort of light machine gun when it was developed. It's a bit like a Bren in terms of its role. Right, for metal detecting, anyone can do it, Matthew. I think there's a lot of weird shit to do with what you can dig up and what you have to turn into museums, and I could not advise you on that. There's nowhere near me I could really metal detect for anything interesting, which is why I've never bothered. eBay, as I've said over and over again, David, nearly every gas mask I get is eBay. But yeah, because I think the thing with World War II is a lot of the tanks, sort of, because the Italian tanks were pretty awful as well, weren't they? It was I think a lot of countries had the idea that all the tanks should be super lightweight, very mobile things, which meant they were cannon fodder to anything with a decent gun on it. Or it was the other problem, they made tanks that were so heavy and sort of, armoured that they were very easy to bomb or like be hit by a gun that was good enough to penetrate because they were so slow moving. They tend to break down a lot because if you put loads of strain on an engine, they'll guzzle a lot of fuel and they won't go very fast. Yeah, the Fallschirmjägers are German paratroopers. But yeah, like I said, the best people to ask the people that do metal detecting, not me. It's the sort of thing, if there was more places near me where I could do it, I'd expect to find anything, I probably would. Because I think it'd be quite a fun hobby to have. If I lived near the coast, I'd definitely get a metal detector and like go along the beach. Yeah, I was planning to go to Chernobyl, Matthew, or like Pripyat last year, and then Corona happened. But right, I've been streaming now for about an hour and a half, so I'll go off in a minute. Yeah, but you have to remember, Jack, that Hitler wasn't the smartest person in the world. By the end of the war, he was basically a meth addict, with funny ideas about German supremacy, German racial supremacy. With I know you can't blame it completely, but a lot of Hitler's mistakes were him thinking he was smarter than everybody else and, not listening to his advisors. I know that's kind of like a bit of a meme thing because there were some of his advisors that were useless, but America did declare war on Germany because Pearl Harbor happened, and then America brought the fight. Well, if you mean in terms of like whipping up support for the Nazi Party, yes, he was a genius, Matthew. If you mean when it came down to I know the most about war, like I want to do it in a Trump voice. I'm not saying Trump's Hitler for obvious reasons, but I just want to sound like a German version of Trump. I know the best about war. I am the best at war. Nobody does war better than me. The hospital basement is, I think they've like properly barred that off now, Jack, as in they've like welded gates onto it because of all the like fucking urban explorers that went down there and horribly contaminated themselves. But yeah, if you're interested in a lot of the World War II stuff, Stuka Pilot's a really good book written by Germany's top pilot, Hans Ulrich Rudel. And that's about, like, a lot of it's about the war on the Eastern Front, and how disillusioned he was when he'd go, to meet the top Nazis and they were just, like, off their fucking heads on drugs all the time. Yeah, he made a car for the people, I suppose. It wasn't actually Porsche that made the Volkswagen. And then Hitler was like, oh, it needs to look more like a Beetle. I don't think Hitler actually talked like that, but yeah, well, it's some sort of super stimulant, isn't it, Brighto? I'll have to look up Pervitin, but so Pervitin salt. Yeah, so it's got methyl something in it, but yeah, I know there's like a lot of spin-offs, but yeah, super powerful stimulants essentially. So he wasn't sleeping and he was getting paranoid. Well, I'd say in the sense, Ricardo, that they won't just get thrown away because there's apparently loads of surgical masks just turning up in the sea now, aren't there? Which is pretty horrible in terms of like killing wildlife. There's actually a video you can find of Hitler. I don't know where it's from, where he's like rocking like a fucking crazy person. He's like in some sort of stadium watching like some sort of troops going past. This isn't like a propaganda thing. But there's actually a bit where I assume they didn't show it to the German people at the time, but Hitler's in his chair going like that. He's like fucking off his head on something. But at some point, Tim, but is that from the? So that's back in like 36, isn't it, Nick? Where he's fucking doing that. Christ. So he's only got to getting worse over time with his drug taking. He's not going to get any better. But yeah, I think with a lot of the most evil people in the world, they often did fuck their brains up with drugs as well. Like Stalin was a very, very heavy drinker. Why did you YouTube? I'm not YouTube. I've had 2 strikes. One of them I successfully appealed. The other one, it wouldn't let me appeal. One was for a video game. Apparently, video games are hate speech, even when there's like no dialogue in it, and it's just a gameplay Easter egg. That's hate speech, according to YouTube. Couldn't appeal that one. The other one I got was medical misinformation because I was apparently saying anti-vax stuff when I said I had the vaccine. And when I appealed that and a person looked at it, they removed the strike because obviously saying I've had the vaccine, that's apparently medical misinformation. Right. There's a theory, yeah, that Stalin was poisoned. But the part of the delicious irony, of course, of Stalin was he made people so afraid of him that when he fucking collapsed, nobody wanted to go in and check on him because they thought they'd get shot or go to the gulag. So that it's I suppose it's quite a satisfying thought that you have like a murderer of millions of people pissing himself on the floor, as his brain goes, because nobody's going to help him because they're too afraid of him. That's what they fucking deserve, dickheads like that. But sadly, most dictators live to quite a good age. Well, Chris, the reason, like I said, I can't understand the reason for it. Like, one of them was completely invalid and they appealed it. The other one just wouldn't give me the option to appeal it. Anyway, I'll be off now. But yeah, Hitler's always a fascinating subject, but I don't like the man at all. I just saw the thing you said, Rich. This bad dragon is sehr good. Yeah, so that's what he had then, Rich, some sort of giant dildo. But yeah, have a good evening, everybody. So you're not on Twitch tonight, Mike. I'll watch a film or whatever. Have a good evening, everybody. We were just on about that, Tim. Like, apparently it's from the 1936 Berlin Olympics or whatever it was. But yeah, I'll be on tomorrow, but I might do a members stream tomorrow. So see you all then. Bye.